I want to get this started here. How's it going, everyone? Appreciate you taking some time to join us today. I know it's a Thursday. I know you guys are hard at work. I appreciate you joining us. I'm Brandon. I'm the I'm the director of dealer operations here at Roomvo. And today I'm joined by Jim Armstrong and Jim Aaron. I'm going to introduce them shortly. Before I do that, really quickly, I'm going to run through some basic housekeeping, keep everyone up to date since the last time we met and the last Roomvo University webinar. In the last 2 months, the team at Roomvo has been hard at work. We've gone to 8 different trade shows, I think, if not more. And Jim Aaron can attest to that because he was on the road with us and he was there at all of those trade shows. It was a super humbling experience to finally get to meet so many of you. 2.5 years ago when I started at the company, I think we had 250 retailers using Roomvo, and then this crazy thing called COVID hit, and we met nobody throughout that entire 2.5 years in person, but we got to speak to so many of you guys over the phone and over email, and now we have over 5,000 retailers using Roomvo. So the last 8 weeks, it was so exciting to finally get to meet you guys. So many of you guys stopped in the booths and emailed us when you were coming at shows. So if you swung by, I just want to thank you for showing your support. And if you're going to any trade shows in the future, please shoot us an email to let us know. Over the course of those 8 weeks, we announced a slew of really exciting partnerships. One that I wanted to highlight right now was our partnership with the NWFA. We are now providing websites for $20 a month to NWFA members, and they come preloaded with incredibly exciting content that the NWFA is providing for you guys. So I really wanted to give that a shout out. And if you want to learn more, please email your Roomvo rep. They will have a ton of info to share, and they can walk you through what that looks like. Lastly, in the next few weeks, we have a number of extremely exciting brands that are going to announce that they're on the platform. I believe the number when I checked right before this was 6 brands in the pipeline that are going live in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for those emails from your Roomvo reps. Those brands will become available on the platform, and then you can add them to your visualizer immediately once they go live. So keep an eye out for those. But without further ado, nobody here wants to hear me, that's for sure. You guys came to listen to the other gentleman on the call. I'm going to introduce Jim Armstrong, my co-host. He's an internationally known trainer and coach for flooring dealers and the founder and president of Flooring Success Systems, a marketing services and coaching program for dealers. Since 2007, thousands of dealers across the US and Canada have relied on Jim's methods to get more customers, get higher margins, gain an unfair advantage over box stores, and live the lifestyle they deserve. Our special guest today is Jim Aaron, who's going to be talking about our topic, how we can help solve the installation crisis. Jim Aaron has spent all of his adult life in the flooring industry. His experiences include family retail, sales at the wholesale and manufacturing levels, and overseeing merchandising strategy for the industry's largest buying group. He now serves as the executive director of the Floor Covering Education Foundation, and I'm super excited to have him with us today. It's Jim Palooza here. Jim Armstrong, I'm gonna turn it over to you to start asking the questions, and I'll jump in accordingly.
All right. Well, I've talked to Jim Aaron, Mr. Aaron, quite a bit, and he's got a real passion for this topic. And so we're going to jump right in with what's happening right now to solve the installation crisis and what the FCEF is, what it's doing, and what the latest is. So, Jim, before we really dive in, give us a background on the FCEF. What is it? Why was it founded?
Hey, great.
Oh, and by the way, one minute. I forgot. I got to do something. I got to interrupt you. Jim is here. He was on at one of the aforementioned conventions and came down ill, and so ill he literally canceled all his appointments today except this one. he is just the trooper. I've done these things when I'm not feeling well, and oh my God, we so appreciate it. And I know everyone else will too, once especially as they begin to hear what you have to say, Jim, but just want to thank you for going above and beyond today. I know this is a, if I hadn't said anything, they probably wouldn't have even noticed, because you're high energy and you're passionate about this. But I just wanted to give a special shout out and thanks for making the effort to be here. That means a lot to us and all of our attendees.
Well, thank you, Jim. Listen, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. And yeah, I do feel rotten. So, but doing events like this make me feel a little bit better. So I'm not going to lie to you. As soon as it's over, I'm probably going to go crash in the bed. But you know what? This next little bit of time will be good. So thank you. I appreciate that. So let's talk about the FCEF. You mentioned in the introduction that I had been in the flooring business most of my adult life, and it's true. I guess it was in the early 20s while I was going to college. I worked at my uncle's flooring store. And then when I graduated college, I went to work for a distributor based in the Southeast, William Bird & Company. And I remember, gosh, 35 years ago, I heard retailers saying they didn't have enough installers. And that's been 35 years ago. And we've all heard it and we all know it. And if you talk to any retailer for any length of time, it's a topic that's going to come up pretty quickly. And we all know it anecdotally, right? But in order to solve a problem, you've really got to define it, right? You got to know the specifics of it, and you got to quantify it, I guess is the word. So in 2018, the Floor Covering Leadership Council commissioned a company called the Blackstone Group. You can look these guys up. They're a big firm out of New York. They do a lot of great things, but they have an extraordinary research arm. And so the Floor Covering Leadership Council commissioned those guys to study this issue. And after about a 6 to 9 month study, they came back with a very, very exhaustive report. In fact, the executive summary is 46 pages long. That's the summary. Instead of going through all the details on that, I'll tell you the 3 most important things that I took from that executive summary. Number 1, the average age of the flooring installer today in the US or North America is 56 years old. Now, by the way, that was in 2018, right? So even if it's 58 years old today, that should concern everyone, okay? Number 2, it said the flooring industry is losing between 5,000 and 6,000 installers every year. Now that's a net loss. In other words, if 10,000 get in, 15,000 get out. They also said that's been happening for a while, for several years. And the third thing I think that was the most important thing they said was, without a concerted industry effort, a group effort by the industry to do this, to stem the tide, that was going to continue and it was just going to worsen. And really, who's going to be the worst off for that is the independent retailer. So then in 2019, the World Floor Covering Association, under the leadership of Scott Humphrey and the board of directors, decided that they were going to lay down the first $1 million to prop up the Floor Covering Education Foundation. And they then challenged the other big 3, so to speak, to match it. And so Mohawk and Shaw Industries came back and matched with $1 million. And Shaw Industries, Engineered Floors, because they're a bit smaller, came back and matched at $500,000. And so that was the initial seed money. And let me be very clear, we don't have all of that money in the bank. We draw off of that money when we need it, because we want to be very good stewards of that money. Because after all, we are a charitable 501c3 organization. So if you take a look at, and by the way, I've been on board, I guess it was end of February, 1st of March of last year. They made the big announcement about the FCEF creation in December of 2019. And they were about to begin research on an executive director. Of course, when COVID hit and everything got put on hold, they restarted the search in December of 2020, and I came on board in February 1st to March 2021. So at a high level, the Floor Covering Education Foundation exists to do the following. Number 1, create awareness of the job opportunities and career pathways in flooring installation. Number 2, improve the perception of those pathways, because that's very important as well. And once we have people that raise their hand and say, okay, that sounds like a good thing, what do I do next? We then connect them with training partners and scholarship their education. And at the end of the day, if they need placement or assistance with placement with a job, then that's where we come involved in as well. We help assist those individuals with placements. A lot of times, however, they already come to us ready to go to a training, asking for the scholarship, and they've already been connected to a retailer. So that's what we do, increase awareness, scholarship education, and help place individuals with career paths. So at a high level, we do a lot more than that. So that's it.
And I know right now the labor market's especially tough, even aside from the installation crisis, just the general labor market in the U.S. because of COVID and a lot of the policies have kind of made finding people difficult. So this mission's more critical than ever, and making this an appealing career path for would-be installers is just critical.
Let me just jump in here, not to interrupt you, but not only is it more critical, Jim, it's more difficult than ever. If you were to ask me some of the things that surprised me the most in my role here in the last year is, once you start to dig into this, you see the headlines on the news, but really when you start reading just about everything you can get your hands on in this regard, which I've done, you find out that every other trade is really desperate for help like we are. I mean, plumbers, electricians, you name it, they're desperate as well. But here's the thing, all of those other trades, and I know nobody wants to hear this, but it's the truth. That's my job, to tell you the truth, whether or not you want to hear it or not. All those other trades are more well organized, they're more well funded, and they're more well known. And so it's even a bigger challenge than we probably had a few years ago.
Yeah. I've got a dear friend of mine who he's part owner in a big drywall firm in the Bay Area in California, and they have 800 employees, and that's their biggest challenge, is finding the people.
Yep.
So well, talk about the FCEF's involvement in installer training. Sometimes there's a little confusion about what you folks do, how you facilitate that.
Great question. I'm glad you asked, because if you take a look at our name, FCEF, or Floor Covering Education Foundation, you would almost assume that we do the training, and we do not. Maybe our name doesn't properly represent who we are and what we do. But I think the education part of it was placed there because the people that really propped this up initially decided that when people come into the industry, they need to be trained immediately. We all know that there are far, far, far too many installers that just become installers without any professional certified type of training. That they just learn from the guy that they used to work with, right? So that said, the Floor Covering Education Foundation does not do any training ourselves. We don't write curriculum. We don't teach installers. You don't want me teaching installers or any of my staff. And by the way, I have a staff of 2 people. Kay Whitener is our director of operations, a wonderful, wonderful person, awesome lady. And
Kay's great.
She is fantastic. And honestly, we wouldn't be where we are today without a lot of her passionate work as well. And so I want to give her credit. And we have an administrative assistant, Tiffany Ketchum, but none of us are doing any training. We partner with the best training partners in the industry. And those are CFI, Certified Flooring Installers. A lot of people know who that is. Of course, NWFA, Brandon mentioned those earlier. NWFA, National Wood Flooring Association. They have a wonderful state-of-the-art training organization. And anybody who wants to go into wood training and installation, we connect them with NWFA. And of course, CTEF. Now, that may not be quite as well known. CTEF stands for Ceramic Tile Education Foundation. They are the training arm of the NTCA, National Tile Contractors Association. That's kind of an alphabet soup here. We've got them all. So CTEF is Ceramic Tile Education Foundation. They're based in Clemson, South Carolina. And again, they're the training arm of the NTCA. And if somebody wants tile training, we certainly connect them with them. But if they want carpet and resilient, CFI is the best organization for that. But yeah, we don't do any training, nor do we write curriculum.
Okay. Now, let's talk about some of the large organizations that have stepped in, and kind of the other organizations you're working with to get involved.
Yeah, great question. So again, I mentioned early on that Mohawk, Shaw, and Engineered Floors answered the call early. But since then, one of my jobs as executive director is to constantly recruit for financial support. Let's face it, I have a salary. My two employees have a salary. We have expenses. It costs money to create an awareness campaign. I'll talk about that shortly. We did initially try a lot of social media, just blasting certain key areas with a lot of social media ads. I would tell you that doesn't work, not for what we're doing, and I'll talk about that later if the questions come. But we do need money to create certain awareness campaigns in local communities, because I think that's really the magic here. It has to happen in local communities. But at the end of the day, it's scholarships, right? We have to have money for scholarships. And let me talk about that for a moment. People wonder, okay, well, you said you scholarship, what does that mean? We offer up to $2,500 in scholarships per individual, and that is a lifetime maximum. At least it is right now. We could adjust that moving forward in the future. We want to be flexible as the needs of the industry demand it. But currently, let's say a person wants to go to the 2-week CFI carpet training, and that's really a basic entry-level carpet installation training, 2 weeks. The cost, or the tuition cost for that, is $2,500. We scholarship 50% of it. So we would scholarship $1,250 of the $2,500. That would leave that individual another $1,250 to apply for, whether they wanted to apply for a tile course or a wood course a year or two later. Probably the most popular the one that we've been scholarshiping to the most is, believe it or not, the 5-week CFI carpet course. That tuition is $5,000, and we scholarship, of course, $2,500 to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are the local workforce development organizations getting involved?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I want to approach that from a couple of different areas. We can talk about local workforce development in two different ways. One, the actual formal structured workforce development organizations that are more or less government related. And we're working with those when we go to apply for grants. And this is probably something we didn't talk about the last time you and I worked together, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
But but listen, I've been in the flooring business, like you said earlier, 35 years, but this is a totally different category, right? I'm learning a lot about education in technical colleges and community colleges, because I think we need to be there, and I can talk about that in a moment. That's a unique animal in and of itself. And I've also discovered, wow, there is a lot of money available for grants, whether those grants are state, federal, or local. And what we found is when you go to apply for a grant, then they always ask you, how are you working with local workforce development organizations? So I'll just go ahead and announce right now that we've applied for a very large grant. Please, everybody, if you're a praying person, pray. And
Okay. Jim, are you able to hear us? Oh, it froze. Can you hear me, Brandon?
I can hear you, but I surely can't talk on behalf of the FCEF as well as Mr. Aaron could. So
Jim, if you can hear us, the screen froze. You froze. Let's maybe have you log back in. In the meantime, let me see what I can do on my end here.
while you guys look into that, one thing that I did realize we didn't say to everyone who is watching today, we do have the Q&A platform. So obviously, if you guys have any questions, feel free to use that throughout the presentation. Looks like Jim Aaron will be back.
Yeah, he'll try and sign back in here. So one of the things that I will say, just in terms of training your installers, this is something that I've been, I coach flooring dealers. That's what I do. It's part of our mission at Flooring Success Systems. We provide marketing services and also coaching to grow their businesses. And one of the things when it comes to the installer situation is I've been saying repeatedly, you've got to take your destiny into your own hands. The organizations like the FCEF are doing a phenomenal job. And in terms of you getting, taking advantage of the scholarships, absolutely take advantage of that. The CFI, I know has contracts that work like the trucking industry contracts, where the trucking company will pay for your education to become a driver, and you agree to stay on for X number of years, 2 years, 3 years, or what have you. And CFI has those boilerplate contracts that you can use, in NWFA and others may as well. But that can be a great way to go to get these people trained. The other thing that I'm going to say is creating a career path, an enticing career path for younger installers. Most people who are coming up through the ranks, graduating high school, maybe finishing up serving in the military or what have you, they're not necessarily entrepreneurs. Okay. You own a store. It's something you're used to doing. They're looking by and large for a career. And so giving them a career path that they can follow really, really will be helpful for you in recruiting and retaining those quality installers. If you, and buy a career path. So here's some tips that I recommend. By a career path, I mean, showing them over X number of years how much they could expect to be earning. If they get certified in X number of skills, wood, tile, what have you, that they'll get be compensated for that. Show them how they'll get health insurance benefits, how you will kick in for retirement, et cetera, et cetera. I think I can't guess what the role of subcontractors is going to play over the next 10 years. But I think employees, installers, is going to play a bigger and bigger role. I don't know that subcontractors are going to completely go away, but I think you're going to need to look at that. And some good ways that you can recruit these folks is through your job fairs, go to your high school shop classes. I know once Jim comes back on, he'll have some tips in terms of what kind of local places you can access to do some recruiting. In just a second here, give me a second here, Brandon. I want to check my email to see if he's having trouble coming in.
Jim actually just texted me. He's his PC is telling him that he's got an unstable internet, but he's going to join by phone in the next minute or so.
Okay. Well, I'll keep tap dancing then.
You keep tapping. You're doing a fantastic job of holding down the fort. No one here has to know that it's your first day in the industry. That's the craziest part of this whole thing. Someone actually had a really great comment, in the chat there, or in the Q&A box. They mentioned that there are some manufacturers that provide free hands-on training around, at the very least, their specific products.
Yes.
One that stands out in their memory was Schulzer Systems. I don't know, Jim, in your experience, if there are others who have been, more active in promoting that training, but if there's anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, the big manufacturers, they do. And of course, you're going to be learning their products, but it is a way to get training for your people inexpensively, or it can be. Okay. I guess thinking of it in terms of long-term investment in your team, I know that we would all just like, as the Floor Covering Education Foundation and others, change, society. Essentially what they're changing is societal awareness around installation. And as that's happening,
He's back. You got to stop bad mouthing the FCEF now. Jim is back. You got to be nice now.
I was tap dancing the best I could there, Jim. When you watch the replay, you can tell me if how bad I screwed it up.
No, I'm sure you're all good. Sorry about that, guys. I'm dealing with an old PC in front of me, and that's typically how I do my Zoom calls. Well, I think I just got noticed that it's time to get a new home PC if I'm going to go that route. So I switched over to my laptop. So,
hey, I think a whole bunch of us noticed that.
Yeah, it's a little bit different look here. So you know, it's you see my guitars in the background now. So.
Oh yes, there we go.
Go. Okay, good. So where was I and where do I need to pick up? Sorry about that, guys.
We were talking about local workforce development organizations.
Yes. Yeah, and the grants. What I was in the middle of saying is that we have applied for a grant through the I guess it was called the Good Jobs Challenge Grant as a part of the American Rescue Act. We have applied for a healthy number, and we will know about that at the end of June.
Fantastic.
So we'll make a big announcement about that. And listen, we're actually going to try to make grant applications a bigger part of what we do. That being said, I don't want it to stop anybody from donating to the FCEF because ultimately we need money to do this. You know, it's interesting. I have a mentor. We should all have mentors in this business, right? And I have a mentor even at my age and my position. And years ago, well, actually his last year when I started this, he told me, he said, Jim, you're really going to need a war chest of money to make it different.
Uh-oh. Well, Jim, if you can hear us.
Right. And if we get, look,
oh, there it goes. You're back. We lost you for about, we lost you for about 20 seconds there.
Okay.
You're talking about the war chest.
Yeah, I need a war chest of money. So as we'll say is people need to make sure they're continuing to give money, even though we do are certainly applying heavily for the grant money and also have good support from the suppliers. We still need money. At the end of the day, we need money for the awareness campaigns and we need money for scholarships.
Okay. So the FCEF, last time we talked, you had begun working or were going to begin working with the Technical College System of Georgia. Tell us about how that's going.
Yeah, great. So let me just go ahead and say, if this happens again with my internet connection, what I think I'm going to do is call in, so we can keep moving. So last thing I'll tell you is when it comes to the technical college system, again, another thing I did early on was a lot of research in this regard. And when you take a look at the other trades, and I keep mentioning these because we need to consider the other trades because they are competition for the same people we're fighting for. If you're a retailer on this call right now, I want you to start thinking that way. I know you all think about your competition every day, but I want you to start thinking about the fact that why would an individual choose our trade versus another trade? Trust me, there's a certain set of people that are going into a trade. And then when they consider different trades, why would they consider ours, right? I mean, why would they consider ours? So keep that in mind. Other trades are more present in community colleges and technical colleges. I noticed that immediately. In fact, I did a lot of research and I couldn't find a single community college or technical college that had a propped up, standalone, long-term basic installation course. So I mentioned earlier that we don't write curriculum, and we don't. But our three training partners do. So I was able to get the three training partners on the call. And we worked with the Technical College System of Georgia, and we put together a 10-week basic flooring installation training program. We started the pilot program on January the 10th and graduated 8 students. I guess it was in March, end of March, 1st of April. And we started another class just this past Monday, May 16th. And the maximum number of students in the class is 8. We had 8 students graduate the first 10 weeks. And this class, we missed it by 1. We've got 7 students. We had one person that was signed up and they misunderstood the time and commitment requirements, so they bailed out at the last minute. That's okay. We've got 7, and it's going on right now. And here's what's cool about it. The very first week is basic stuff, right? All from learning how to read a tape measure and measuring a room to subfloor preparation, because that's something you've got to do before you install a floor, right? Then it's 2 weeks in carpet, 2 weeks in hardwood, 2 weeks in tile, and 2 weeks in resilient. Those 2 weeks are 1 week in sheet goods and 1 week in LVT. And then the last week is review, testing, instruction on how to handle yourself when you're in a customer's home, how to build a business one day if you want to go out on your own and things like that. But people have, I'll be honest with you, there have been a couple of people that have criticized that format that said, I don't understand why you're doing it that way. But honestly, I think it's the right way to go, because what it does, a person coming out of this class, first of all, is going to be a dynamite helper. I mean, a dynamite helper. They're not going to be able to start their own company right away, not after 10 weeks of training. They're just not. But they're going to be a dynamite helper, and regardless of what floor you put them on. But at the same time, it also gives them exposure to all of these disciplines, carpet, tile, hardwood, and resilient, to let them decide which one they like the most. And that worked out really well, because we had a number of people that went into tile, a couple that went into carpet, and a couple that went into hardwood. And so, yeah, it works out well. Again, and listen, the trade press has been very kind to us. We've been in Floor Covering Weekly, Floor Covering News, and the like. And this trade school program, this technical college program, has gotten a lot of coverage. And so we've had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, how can you bring that to my hometown? And I would tell you, if you're a retailer watching this right now, please reach out to me. And let me say this before we move to the next question. It's easy for somebody to raise their hand and say, hey, can you bring this to my hometown? It's another thing when we say, great, we can do it, but we're going to need your help too. Because after all, keep in mind, it's just me and Kay and Tiffany, and we're stretched extremely thin. And we do want to duplicate this in as many areas across the country as we can. But we do need what we call local advocates or local champions in the local market to say, yeah, I'll be your guy. I'll make contact with the technical college. And what we encourage you to do is, if you can make contact with a technical college in your area, then connect us and let us get on a 30 or 45-minute Zoom call and tell that technical college what this is all about, and see if there's interest in going to the next step. But if we go to the next step, you retailer in that local community would still kind of lean on you a little bit to do some work there locally. Not a lot. We realize you have your own job, but we do need some help in this duplication.
Okay.
I got a question about that, because when we were promoting the webinar, it was crazy how many people were excited about it. I think it actually broke a record. We were talking about this earlier in registrants and attendees. But a few people replied saying that they live in really small rural areas, and that it's going to take too long to get there. And so what do you say to that? There's got to be something that everyone can do. So what are your thoughts when it's not a big, urban metropolitan area?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, first of all, let me tell you, you'd be surprised how many times people will drive further than you think they will. That's the first thing. Our first class, we had 2 of the 8 people that lived in, by the way, and I don't even know that I mentioned where the class was. Of all places, imagine we had it in Dalton, Georgia. It was Georgia Northwest Technical College that said, yes, we would love to have it here for obvious reasons, right? But we had 2 people that drove every day an hour and a half to that class from the Atlanta area. Okay, that's first. Secondly, let me tell you, if you live in an area where you don't think a technical college long-term is a viable option, we can work with the training partners and bring training to you. And I believe if we are going to solve this problem, we do need to get training. Look, when we talk about bringing somebody in, it should be second nature to automatically say, well, we're bringing them in. How are we going to train them? At least get them some basic training immediately, right? That's got to be part of our culture moving forward. So let me tell you, if you want NWFA, CFI, or CTEF to come to your local community, within a 30 or 40 mile radius, great. We just need the place to conduct the training, and we need the proper number of students. And typically, they want at least 4 to 5 and a maximum of say 8, 9, or 10, right? There is a maximum for obvious reasons. They want to make sure they're dealing with individuals on a one-on-one basis. But listen, if you want to bring training local to you, again, we don't do training, but I talk to people at one of the training organizations every single day, and we could coordinate bringing training to you. We just need to coordinate some of the things ahead of time to make it happen.
Okay. Let's talk about local retailer involvement. You brought that up, Jim. Expand a little about what the FCEF can do to help dealers recruit installers in their own market.
Yeah, let me say this very clearly. And if there's, boy, I hope my internet doesn't bail out on this part, because I listen, if people are on the webinar now, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this above anything else, it's what I'm about to say. There is no scenario, absolutely no scenario, where progress is going to be made on this installation crisis that doesn't involve engagement at the local level. Can I say that again? There's no scenario where progress is going to be made on this crisis that doesn't involve engagement at the local level. Folks, the future is going to belong to people who prepare for it today. That's as simple as that. You got to look at it yourself. Have you been one of these people that have just held your fist up in the air and screamed at the wind and complained about it, but not doing anything about it? And if you are, you got to stop, because there are a lot of people that are doing something about it, and they're doing something about it for their own business. You know, again, I told you a moment ago, we've had a lot of interest in the technical college program, and we had a guy named Rick Costner from About Floors and More down in the Jacksonville, Florida area, put us in contact with the Jacksonville area technical college. And I went and met with them about this program, and it looks likely we're gonna set this program up in Jacksonville. And while I was visiting with these people, I said, listen, you guys must do some research with your current students about how they chose a career path, right? How did they choose whatever career path it is, whether it's computer services or phlebotomy or whatever? How did they choose that? And they said, well, of course, that's information we have to know. Great. What were the results, please? Get this. They said 95% of the people at our technical college here said that they chose their career profession based on comments from either a high school guidance counselor or a relative or a neighbor. A high school guidance counselor or a relative or a neighbor. It's not social media. It's not billboards on the side of the road. It's one-on-one conversations. So if you're local, let me ask you, when's the last time you've talked to your high school guidance counselor and told them that this is an awesome career path? When is the last time? By the way, I don't know if you realize this or not, but there are a number of schools that are now bringing back shop class. Thank God. I think the absence of shop class in the last couple of decades has really taken a toll on our
giant mistake, huge mistake.
Huge. You know, listen, I did some research on that as well and found out that high schools at one point were judged how good they were on whether or not people coming out of their senior year got a job within the first 3 months. That switched in the 70s and 80s. They were no longer judged on whether or not they got a job in the first 3 months. High school started being judged on what? College preparedness. Some bonehead in the Department of Education decided that everybody should be going to college, and it's just not true. It's just not.
And it's a cultural thing too, Jim. I went to my nephew's graduation a few years ago, and the college students, the people who were headed to college lauded, just huge. I mean, this is a couple thousand, maybe 1,200 graduates, medium-sized school, lauded.
Yeah.
Military, if you're going into the military, you got a small tip of the cap, nothing else. Yeah. Nobody, no mention of technical schools, no mention of entrepreneurship, nothing. And here's something that I just heard, a stat that just came out. I want to make sure I get this right. In the last few years, colleges across the board have lost 1.5 million in enrollment, and 71% of it is male students.
Yeah.
These are people that aren't going, they're looking for something.
Right. Absolutely. Listen, at the end of the day, going back to the whole thing about how you can get involved locally, let me ask you, I know people think there seems to be this barrier in people's minds that they can't do anything about the flooring installation business because it's a 1099 program. Well, let me just real quickly tell you about a guy who is, his name is Mike Edens. He's in Kentucky. He's a Carpet One member. He's a friend of mine. I knew him from when I was in Carpet One. He heard about this 10-week installation class down in Dalton, Georgia. And he had a guy in his warehouse, and that's kind of how he brings in new people. He brings in people as a warehouse employee to test them to see if they've kind of got what it takes, right? Because that's hard work. Are they going to show up on time and things like that? Well, after a while, he then goes to them and tells them he's going to invest in their future. And he tells them about the flooring installation career. And a lot of times these guys are very interested. So he took this one guy and said, listen, there's this class in Dalton, Georgia. It's 4.5 hours away, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rent an Airbnb and put you up in the Airbnb for 10 weeks. And I'm going to pay you a salary. Now, it was not much. It was like $10 or $12 an hour, but he paid him while he was learning. Okay. And he covered his Airbnb cost. And so when the guy came back after the 10 weeks, Mike put this guy with his best 1099 crew. And he told the foreman of his 1099 crew, listen, Jack, you're going to pay the kid $10 an hour. I'm going to pay him $10 an hour. You're getting a dynamite helper for only $10 an hour. But here's the deal, Jack. He's going to work with you for like a year, year and a half, 2 years. And when he's ready to go out on his own, you're going to let me know, and we're going to make him his own 1099 crew. And you think, well, that's more than I want to do. Okay, fine. Sit by while everybody else does it and see where you are. Look, again, the research I've done on this is amazing. Let me just give you this one example. There's a company called Mueller Corporation in Charlotte, North Carolina, a big commercial contracting organization. They do a lot of ceramic tile. They noticed years ago they were having a hard time recruiting people for their ceramic tile business, and they knew it was stifling their business. They literally created a recruiting arm of their company just for installers. But beyond that, they built a training facility on the side of their building where when they recruited, they went through like 3 months of ceramic tile training. So they had really literally an organization feeding their own business. It became so popular that they had other trades come to them and say, would you expand to other trades? So now they changed the name from the Mueller Academy to the Craft and Trade Academy. But you know what? They're not the only ones doing it. There's a company called the Jack Lowry Corporation. I think they're in Indianapolis. They have their own training organization as well. Listen, I'm not saying that everybody on this call has the ability to do that, but you have the ability to do something. There's a guy that I know his name is John Steyer. He's his CFI certified installer. And just out of his own heart and just because he wanted to give back, he reached out to his local school that does shop class. And he said, let me come in and expose your students to flooring installation. And he volunteers a couple of weeks of his time every semester and literally takes in product in there and shows the kids how to install floors. Now, it's not about making them certified or really training them to do it, but it's exposure. And if you asked me what is one of our biggest surprises that you've had in your first year is awareness. Guys, listen very carefully. The people that we want to come into this business, they cannot choose this career path if they don't first consider it, and they can't consider it if they're not aware of it. And trust me, they're just not aware of it. They're not aware of it. I was down in just north of College Station, Texas, back of May of last year, and spoke to a group of kids in a high school. It was Bryant Independent School District. And I had 35 or 40 kids in the room. All of these kids were going on the construction path. They were juniors and seniors. They were either in construction 101 or construction 102. They knew they weren't going to a university. They were going into a trade, and they were going into a construction related trade. So I'm standing in front of the room and I say, how many of you are going into flooring installation? I'm sure you can imagine not one single hand went up. I said, okay, fair enough. How many of you have at least considered it? Again, not one single hand went up. It was crickets in the room. And so I started asking, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? Guys, they mentioned every single part of the house except flooring. I'm not kidding.
It's off the radar. I've done the same. I've done similar things. I've asked people, even my wife, my business partner has asked people, hey, you know, they're in their 20 somethings. Hey, have you considered flooring? And it's like, it doesn't occur to them that that's a thing.
I had a kid said that to me. I had a kid, he says, he raised his hand. He goes, that's a thing. And I go,
exactly.
Are you pranking me right now? Are you serious?
Yes.
That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. So, you know, I had somebody ask me, so what do we do about that? I say, you talk about it. When's the last time you've literally talked about it? When's the last time you've talked to your neighbor who's got that son in the basement, who's 26 years old playing video games all day? When's the last time you've talked to your neighbor or his son about this opportunity? When's the last time you've talked to a guidance counselor? When's the last time you've talked to the guy that runs shop class? When's the last time you've gone to a career fair or a job fair, not to try to hire new salespeople, but to hire new installers? And dare say a lot of salespeople that are watching this call are not going to like this, but I'm going to say that right now, look, at the end of the day, what does an independent flooring retailer have to offer? It's professional sales and professional installation. I would dare say you could find a replacement salesperson quicker than you can find a replacement installer.
No question. No question.
Okay. So you got to put effort there. We have tools and we have things that you can use to go to career fairs and job fairs. We've got documents, we've got presentations. Reach out to us. Now's a good time to tell you about the two websites we have. We put together two different, we actually had one to begin with, and we realized we had too much messaging on it. But let me give you the first one. It's FCEF.org. Again, floorcoveringeducation.org or FCEF.org. That's the website that speaks to the industry. That speaks to distributors, manufacturers, retailers, contractors, people that are already in the industry, to tell you what we're doing and how you can be involved. And by the way, there's also a donation page there. I would encourage you, please, to go to the donation page. Don Roberts, our chairman of the board, who is a flooring retailer himself, he owns about 6 locations in Alabama. He has challenged every retailer in America, to donate $100 per month per location to the foundation. And I would tell you, Jim, we have a lot of retailers already answering that challenge. And I would like to challenge everybody on this call to do the same thing. Okay. Then the other website is geared towards recruits, people that might consider this career. And that is called flooryourfuture.com. I think that's kind of catchy. Flooryourfuture.com. And it's great. It's a great website. We have a calendar of events there with different training events that are already scheduled. We have an online scholarship application where people can just apply for a scholarship online. And, we get approval within a week. And by the way, we have like a 99% approval on scholarships. Just about the only way you're not going to be approved for scholarship is if you've got a recent violent felony. And I think that's fair, because if you've got a recent violent felony, we probably don't want you in somebody's house anyway. Okay, so FCEF.org and flooryourfuture.com. Please check both of those out. One other thing I'll tell you, on flooryourfuture.com, there is a website, there is a video embedded on the homepage I want everybody to watch. It's less than 5 minutes, but it is dynamite. And trust me, you'll be glad you watched it. That video, the idea for that video was born out of the time I was standing in front of those kids I just told you about. And once I realized, okay, they don't know anything about flooring, I'm going to tell them why it's a great career path. Well, I'm standing there and I'm wearing a nice suit and, $200 shoes. And I look at these kids and I've got no dirt under my fingernails. And I know they're looking at me going, but you didn't do it. So why are you telling us to do it? And then I realized I can't be the messenger. I don't come with any credibility to tell them why they should do it. So at that point, it was my decision. We needed to go out and find individuals that are, say, between 25 and 35 years old, that are successful, that are well-spoken, that love what they do, that can get on video and tell these other people, tell our recruits, tell our potential recruits why they should choose it. And that's the video I'm talking about. It's a less than 5 minutes long, but it's just great. It's got those people talking to potential recruits, and I think you're going to love it. That's probably one of the things I'm most proud of that we put together. And by the way, when I put that together, I wanted to make sure we didn't have just a bunch of old white guys like me. Look, we've got males, we've got females, Hispanic, African American. I wanted to show anybody and everybody that this is a potential career path for anybody, and it truly is.
Okay, so I encourage everybody to check out that video, check out both websites. We're getting towards the end of our time. I know, Jim, you've been so gracious to come on, feeling sick today. There are some questions, but what if we do this? What if you give out an email address where people can email you directly with their questions, and you can get back to them? And that way, when you're feeling a little less run down, and let's do that.
Yeah. So my email address is see, it's the medication. My email address is jaaron at fcef.org. jaaron at fcef.org. Listen, I'm so passionate about this that I'm going to go ahead and give you my cell phone number as well. I know that's probably dangerous. Don't text me in the middle of the night, okay? But and if you can text me today, but I'm probably not going to respond until Monday until I'm feeling better, quite frankly. But here's my cell phone. It's 803-466-1904. Again, 803-466-1904. And somebody put in the chat, they wanted to know where they could find the video. Again, it was at flooryourfuture.com, flooryourfuture.com.
Okay. All right, Brandon, I'll let you wrap things up for us.
Yeah, I just, I want to call out a couple of these questions here, and we're not going to answer them, but I want you to hear that the Roomvo network here has stepped up. Corinne Gilbert actually mentions that there's a local high school center that she's happy to reach out to. She is wondering if there's an age requirement, but I'm going to connect you via email after this to Corinne once you're feeling better. Monty Hoover serves a local school district advisory board, also connected to the local county school district and community college, who are both adding CTE programs. We're going to connect the FCEF to the right contact. So, and Cameron, a friend out in Canada here, is asking if there's anything in Canada. So I'm going to connect you to Cameron. I believe Cameron's in Calgary, if I remember correctly. So we'll get you connected to everyone. But I just wanted to thank everyone in the chat here for stepping up and doing their part. And I also want to say, we haven't announced it officially yet, but I think it's time that Roomvo is going to be helping out with For Your Future. I know, Jim, we spoke about this before, but we're going to help the way we know how, and that's with technology. If young people don't know about the flooring industry, they definitely know technology at the very least. And we're going to tweak our visualizer in a way to try to make it a recruitment tool. It won't maybe help get awareness, but when you have their attention, we hope it captures both their attention and their imagination and shows them what a future in the industry could look like. And so I'm really excited about that. That's going to be live on For Your Future shortly, and we'll have more info there. But, in closing, one, thank you to everyone who comes. The only way that we actually get to do these awesome events and bring on amazing guest speakers is because you guys continue to show up for them. Two, big thank you to Mr. Armstrong, who continues to be a fantastic co-host. And of course, the biggest thank you to Jim Aaron for joining us today.
Definitely.
He gave you his email. He gave you his phone number. He showed up despite being sick.
Oh my, he is a brave. This is dedication.
This is dedication. So seriously, anything. I encourage you guys to go on those websites, You're going to get a recording of this event too. For joining, you're going to get a recording. We'll email it out to you. And if you have more questions, you email me. I'll connect you to Jim if you didn't get the contact info, or you contact him directly if you did. And that's all.
Cynthia
All right.
asked if I'm in Eastern time. I actually live currently in St. Louis, Missouri, so I'm in Central time.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Feel better.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Speak
Take
soon,
care.
guys.